I'd like you guys to look at this image. And apart from all the We Are podcast signs, what is it that you notice? Now, just to give you a bit of background, these images were clicked at the We Are podcast 2015 conference. And all these people in here were given, all they were given was the We Are podcast sign, right? And we had Jason Mulluan, who's fantastic, by the way. If you guys are going to get any pictures done, big plug for Jason, because he clicked all these pictures. And all that happened was they just clicked pictures. So they were just given the sign. And if you guys look at all these images, what is it that you notice the most? And for me, what I notice the most is that we all express ourselves differently. Each and every one of them were given the same sign and were given, or were just, that's it. That's all they were given. They were not asked to do anything. And everything that came out was so different. Every single one of them is different. And these, I can only put 5. There's so many more. But this is, we are all different. We need to accept that. We need to build on that. Not just accept it for the face value factor that it is, but accept it and build on it. So that's what I'm going to do. And what I also want to make sure that you know is that I will give you the recipe for the perfect podcast by the end of this, because it's important. But it's not as simple as saying add 2 onions to the pan, because this is more volatile than that. It's about building on stuff that you already know, because you are already very valuable. And it's just about you accepting your value and knowing exactly where it all lies. So I'm going to try and get that out in today's training, right? But first, a few disclaimers. I have no filter. I might swear. I'm trying not to. So don't, bear with me. Bear with my accent. Sometimes it's not my accent. My mom says that I do talk with marbles in my mouth. So bear with me on that. There is a lot of content in here, so I will go and I will talk through as fast as possible. I am trying to be as quick as possible, but this is a training that I want you guys to settle in and actually get some work done, so that by the end of it that you get something out of this. There is no silver bullet. There's no one size fits all strategy. My main aim here is to help you make better decisions and ask the right questions. That is key. Not only in business, but I think in life, it's about asking the right questions. And I will help you. I'll help you make the best decisions and make your life easier. So if I can have your permission to talk candidly and tell you exactly what I think, and also offer you any suggestions and help by the end of it, I would love that permission from you guys. And you don't have to put that in the chat box, but I'm just making sure that you know that I might swear, and I have some issues with that. All right, so where the fuck do I start? This is a common question, because chances are that we land up worrying about the equipment, and it's not. I promise you, that's not the place to start. The equipment means nothing until you figure out how to create an engaging podcast. This, by far, engaging podcast, if you had to write something down, it's not profitable, how to create a profitable podcast. It's not about, ROI. It's not about any of that. It's about how to create an engaging podcast. If you can figure it out, how your people will engage with the podcast that you create, you've won, right? So by the end of that's my goal. A couple of things. One is to give you the recipe for the perfect podcast, and hopefully get you one step closer to creating an engaging podcast. Right. So there are 3 main factors. So if you look at your workbook, there are 3 main factors there that I would like you to write down, and you can write single words for this, because they are only single words. The 3 main factors to create a profitable podcast. So firstly, you I want you to make sure that you know how important you are, and not like I mentioned before, not just the fact that you're there, but build on your skills and um, your view on the world and your ability to take information and distill it from your perspective. That is important, and we're going to talk about that. Your people are important, which means your audience, the people that listen to you, the people that will ultimately become clients, the people around you that care about your work, they are key. So the second factor to create a profitable podcast is your people. And finally, your peers are key. Now, your peers can range from the people you hang out with on a regular basis to the guests you have on your show to the guests that introduce you to other guests. All those networks and those connections are key. And there's nothing better than a podcast to grow your network. And again, a different conversation. But I want you to make sure that you know these three factors for a profitable podcast. So you, your people, and your peers. Right. So now we're going to use the workbook. So I'm going to ask you guys to open the workbook and write this stuff down because we're going to get into the meat and potatoes. If you're a white person, if you're Indian like me, you're going to get into curry and rice. So this is the main course. It's coming up. We're going to talk about you. We're going to start working on you and what makes you different, right? So what I'm going to start talking about is how to build on you, because yeah, it's great that you're different, and it's great that you're unique, but how do you take that and take it one step further? I'm going to we're going to dive into why you are important. We're going to try and figure out your purpose and how to build your podcast upon that purpose and why that purpose is important. And that's a very abstract term as well, purpose. And I'm going to try and break it down through a couple of different ways. We're going to talk about intersection, and a couple of people on the actual training today are KPIs, so you'll know the meaning of intersection and and how that framework comes together to talk about why. And I'll also talk about Steve Jobs and Mr. Branson and how they built their why. I think that intersection part is a quite cool way to determine your purpose. So before that, this is a really cool quote. The difference between you and everyone else is everyone else. And that's a lot. So you should feel special. And not only feel special, but when that voice in your head comes up and tells you that you have all these, why would anyone care? That's the time that you should feel special, because I promise you, everyone goes through it. And I want most importantly, apart from everything else in the content here, what I'd like you to know is, what is your value? Because it's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out, or woman who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. Because we love, especially on Facebook, we love to comment on how other people are doing. In fact, Mr. Mike Campbell is actually on this training, and recently he's got a couple of, I actually saw this on Facebook, he got a couple of people send stuff his way, but it's not those people that matter. And Mike deals with it really well. But it's really weird to see some of the comments that come up. But it's important that we don't worry about the critic, because they are not important. It's your peers, it's the people that you keep around you, and the people that you keep close to you, and the people that you trust. And those are the people that matter. So if you don't have this, because I actually have this stuck up on my wall, it's by Theodore Roosevelt, and this whole quote, I have this right in front of me, because trust me, I feel down some days. Some days Rochelle will come home and find me in fetal position. Not every day, no, once a year, or maybe twice a year. But there are days where that happens, and you got to remind yourself that it's about you being in the arena. and go find this quote. It's a brilliant quote. So we're gonna find out what your creed is. What are your values? So when you open the book, the training to the values section, I'd like you to start writing down. Just I'm gonna give you about 45 seconds. So please, start writing. 45 seconds on how do you fill your space. Now look around you. I mean, that's a really good example. Like look around your desk. What's around? Do you have post-it notes that you haven't actioned? If that's the way you keep a track of your to-do list. What's in your wallet? Like what's by your bedside table? What's stuck up on your walls? How do you fill your space? I just like you to write all that stuff down, right? Just write them as points. You don't have to, write full sentences. So just make sure you write like what's around you. Do you have a whiteboard? Do you have a jar that I know some people that have a jar of the best thing that happened to them in that day, and then in a year's time, or whenever they feel down, they pick up that jar. They pick out of that jar to make them feel better. Andrew Griffiths actually has a whiteboard that he writes all his wins through the year, and at the end of the year, he clicks a picture of it. So, what is it that you fill your space with? What's around you? Do you have a lot of natural light coming in? Is that part of your space? Is that what you like? Do you have multiple tables around you? Do you have, like me, recording equipment and hard disks everywhere? Um, like, what is it that you have around you? I'm going to give you a couple of minutes for that. Not a couple of minutes, a couple of seconds. Right. So hopefully you guys got some clarity on what's around you, because sometimes we don't notice this stuff, right? It really becomes part of the landscape, and it's important to notice it because that makes you who you are. It's not like you got to clean it up. Don't that's This is not the reason why I'm asking you to do it. I'm asking you to do it because you notice you, and you're not supposed to be like someone else. You're just supposed to be a better version of you, and and it all starts with noticing what's around you, right? So how do you fill your space? Next, I want you to start writing and think about how do you spend your time. And for anyone wondering, yes, that is me. And it's probably one, like if someone asked me about the happiest time that I've spent on a holiday, it's here in Greece. And I'm going to go back, but this was now 4 years ago. And eh, what is it that you love doing? Where is it that if you had the option, you would want to spend your time? What do you love to do? Where do you, because time is one of those currencies that we cannot get back. It's not like you can go and earn more time. There was a great Justin Timberlake movie about the time, and how time is always there. I don't know whether you guys watched it, but where do you spend your time and how do you spend it? If you could write a couple of things down there, that would be fantastic. And I promise you, this is all going to come together. So please make use of the workbook. So, how is it that you spend your time? Where do you spend it? What do you do? Um, Now, I'd like you to think about, what do you think about? And it's very different from daydreaming. No, it's actually very similar to daydreaming, but it's what is it that when you have a spare moment, you start thinking about? Is it um, all the action items on your to-do list that you got to get done? Um, is it a new project? Is it where's money going to come from? Is that it? Because if that is it, then that should be something that you should write. Is it your family? Is it um, I don't know, maybe an aging parent? Over the last few months, that's what I've been dealing with. I've been thinking about that. It's a very weird sensation to suddenly flip that around, where you think that you were always the kid, and suddenly dynamic flips around. So what is it that you think about? um, do you think about success? Do you think about helping people? Do you think these do you think what is it? What are those things that you think about? If you can make sure you write some of that down. I have to say that this is really weird because I actually can't see whether you guys are writing. You could possibly be just staring at the screen. Um, so this is so different from what I've done before, but um, I know this is going to get you value. So I hope you guys are actually writing it down. So after what do you think about? What do you visualize? And this is very different from what you think about, because when you think about stuff, you're thinking, but what do you see? Like when you are in this, even when you're in this daydream mode, or even when you're dreaming, when you remember your dreams, like what is it that you visualize? What do you actually see? Um, and it's very, very different to what you think about. And I'd like you to give yourself some time to stop and first notice the difference between visualization and what you visualize and what you think about. And I'm going to keep quiet because this is not easy, and I want you to write a couple of things on what you visualize. So what do you visualize? Okay. um just everyone that has put questions in, I've got a chance to look at the questions, and I promise I'll answer them. Victoria, Therese, I'll answer your questions. I just want to go through this exercise. So after what you visualize, what do you talk to yourself about? Now, we do not pay attention to how we talk to ourselves. It's and a lot of you are actually on here today, on the training today, are very self-aware people, and I know a lot of you. I know a lot of you personally. So you might be aware on about how you talk to yourself, and I'd like you to write those things down. But a lot of the times we're not aware. So even if this exercise allows you to start paying attention to how you talk to yourself, because this is the key, right? The key is that how you talk to yourself, and that standard that you set on how you talk to yourself, that's the standard you set to everyone else. So if you talk to yourself in a rude and brash manner, then and someone else talks to you in that manner, you'll accept it. And somehow there's and not anyone, but obviously close people, and then then you start blurring the lines of what is abuse, right? Now I know I'm getting into some very crazy territory, but I'd like you to pay attention to how you talk to yourself, because that's the standard you set. And that's the standard you set to also how you talk to other people. So just being aware of it, not changing it, not doing anything else about it, but just being aware of it. And I'd like you to write a couple of points down on how you talk to yourself, or what do you talk to yourself about? What are these things that you talk to yourself about? Is it when I have enough money, I'm gonna go on a holiday, or I'm going to donate to this cause, or uh, when uh, I don't know, when I move into a bigger house, I'm going to get a dog. What is it? It doesn't have to mean anything to anyone else. What does it mean to you, and what is it that you talk to yourself about? finally, not actually not finally, but what do you talk to others about? Now, before I started Bond Appetit, the podcast, I would talk about food to people at a barbecue. I tell this a lot, especially in some of the keynotes that I give, that I used to talk to people at barbecues about food because I would get to barbecues and you'd have the same sausages with the same store bought sauce, with the same store bought bread. And I would talk to people about food and how, some of the stuff in food is not actually food. And no one would give a shit. No one would give a damn about what I had to say because they didn't really care. But what is it that you talk to others about? Whether they care or not is irrelevant. But what is it that you feel so passionately about that you want to talk to others about? And you can talk to others about that day in and day out. Now, this question is key, especially for podcasting, because it, and please don't write stuff about your business because it's the right thing to write about. Like, seriously, stop and think. Go past the point of this is a stupid exercise that your brain's telling you. Go past that point and actually think about what you love to talk to others about. It has got nothing to do with your business at all, and it doesn't have to be anything to do with your business, right? uh so what are those topics? And this is what I'd really love you to do, because sometimes our significant others are really good mirrors. They you might not like them when they tell it to you, but they're really good mirrors. So when you finish today's webinar, whenever you get a chance to talk to them, if you ask them, what is it that I talk about, what is it that I talk to you about, and see what they say, because trust me, they know you. So talk to them about it. And it doesn't have to be a significant other only, but it could be people that you're really close to. So ask them, because chances are a lot of us, when we start asking ourselves what we talk to ourselves about, we're going to write our business because we're on the right track. And and if it is, that's cool, but just challenge yourself on these things, please. Finally, what inspires you? And if you notice from my images, I really get inspired by not necessarily the beach, like a lot of people that I know. A lot of my friends are like very beach people. For me, it's more nature and ponds and forests and stuff like that. So, what is it that inspires you? Where is it that you do your best work? And it could be a library. It could be a co-working space. Um, it could be a whole bunch of different things. Where is it that you do your best work, and what inspires you? What do you have when you what do you think about when you actually go out and do cool stuff, right? And I'd love you to write some of that down. And finally, you mentioned at the start what your business goals for 2016 are, and I'd like you to spend some time, not necessarily now, but later on writing some more goals for the year. It's really, really important. Trust me, it's going to make a massive difference. And even if you write 3 or 4 of them, um, you're closer to achieving them than most people. So make sure you write them down. What are your goals? Um, Now, I want to talk about this sweet spot, and we've done a lot of work on values and what you are as a person. And some of you might already know it. Some of you might have just realized a whole bunch of things. But your purpose has got 4 factors, in my opinion. And in your book, if you could write this stuff down, and it could be very simple. What is it that you love to do, and just absolutely love? It's irrelevant whether you get paid to do it or any of that stuff. But what is it that you love to do, and you would do it day in and day out, and just be like a pig in shit or a fat kid on a cupcake, or just be absolutely happy doing it? What is it that you love to do? And just write that down. Then the next factor is, what is it that you're great at doing? Now, hey, thanks, Sherry. So, what is it that you're great at doing? Now, when you think about the things that you're great at doing, it's not necessarily stuff that you love to do, right? To give you an idea, I'm great at technical stuff. Somehow, not going to repeat my previous Indian joke, but somehow I'm wired where I'm great at technical stuff. Doesn't mean I love to do it at all. So, but for some of you, you could be great at doing stuff, and you could love. So, on another note, I'm also great at deconstructing someone's problem and creating a product out of it. That is something that I absolutely love doing, and it is something that I'm great at doing as well. And I can do that for anyone, uh, and any problem. And it's quite weird. It's quite spooky, but I've done it for the last year and a half, and I've got some great results. So that's the thing I'm talking about. So it could be great at other things, but what is it that you're great at doing? What is it that you love to do? And when you find those two, it's your, when you use these words that I'm going to start, there are four words I'm going to use. We kind of use it as a synonym. It's not a synonym. Synonymously. Fuck. Uh, as a synonym. And they're not. So passion is very different. So passion is what you love to do and what you're great at doing. Now, there's a third aspect to it, and it's something that you are paid to do. Now, as going back to an example about me, I would get at one stage get paid to I was a software engineer. I was a software quality manager for a massive multinational firm on the Canadian Stock Exchange, and I was great at what I did. I wrote a thesis on it, and I was getting paid to do it. Uh, but nowadays, I'm great at other stuff, and I get paid to do it. It's quite different. But at that time, or even now, like what you're great at doing and what you paid to do makes up your profession. So when someone asks you what's your profession, and there's nothing wrong with that kind of, even if you live on your passion, you're doing some great stuff. It's your profession is quite different from your passion. And yes, they could overlap and you could blur the lines, but make sure that you understand the difference. And the fourth aspect to all this is something that we don't pay attention to. We kind of worry about the other three, and we worry about it, and we don't worry about the fourth one. And it's about what the world needs. And I don't necessarily think that the world needs another software engineer or software quality manager per se, but I know that a lot of the world needs a lot of other kind of people. So when the world needs it and you get paid to do it, that becomes your vocation. And somehow in Australia, we don't use the word vocation as much, but in other parts of the world, especially in Asia, vocation is used quite a lot in conversation. And when you love what you do and the world needs it, that becomes your mission. So a lot of the times when we do talk about stuff and we are giving the big picture, we talk about our mission. And if it's not something you love to do and the world doesn't need it, then I challenge you that it's probably not your mission. It's not a mission at all. So these are the four aspects that I'd love you to pay attention to, and it's really important because where they come together, that is your sweet spot. And I promised you that we're going to look at some of your values, because you did an exercise at the start, where we spoke about what is it that you have around you, and that will give you good indication on what your highest values are. Because when we start talking about your purpose, and a lot of you, like I mentioned, know KPIs will know what the intersection is, but not a lot of you, a few of you who are already here, you know that your intersection is a framework to find your purpose, which is basically the 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 coming together of your highest value and your second highest value. So from all what we've done before in the exercises, when we looked around in your space and what do you think about, and what do you talk to other people about, and what are your goals, and all this stuff, right? You will see a trend. Now, the trend will let you know what your values are. and there is no, oh, I would love to be, family should be my highest value. Maybe it is, but it doesn't have to be because it's the right thing to say. Look at the trends, look back when you reminisce about stuff. What are the happiest moments that you have? What are the times that you just love to think about? What are those times? And what are the values that come together in those times? So I promised you to give you, an example of Richard Branson, and a lot of, the people that have heard this before will know this. But Richard Branson's intersection is business and fun. So it doesn't matter what business he takes, right? It could be credit cards, it could be airlines, it could be anything. It doesn't matter what business he takes, and he adds fun to it. It changes, and he flourishes in that intersection. So that's his. It's easy to sort of quantify or put that purpose together. So what is it? What are your two highest values? Now, talking about Steve Jobs again, Steve Jobs' highest values are liberal arts and technology. So it didn't matter what he did, whether it was Pixar, the Apple iPhone, the Mac, the iPad, irrelevant. Irrelevant what he did. He flourished and grew and did amazing things when he worked on the intersection of liberal arts and technology. So when I say to you that this is important, and you will start, it's like swimming upstream with a backpack on you if you don't figure this out. And if you think that you already have a business in a particular area, that's great, I understand. uh, but actually taking time to figure this out is key if you want to start a podcast, because creating one on this will create the highest engagement, because it'll come through. It'll absolutely come through, and that's what people want. All right. Just to give you an idea of where purpose has yielded the biggest benefits, if you think about, people doing really cool stuff. Yeah, one of my people, Mahatma Gandhi, he's done some amazing stuff. But Malala, who has broken all odds before she was even 18 years old, got the World Peace Prize. I mean, Nobel Peace Prize. Is very evident that she's living on purpose, and it's really kind of cool for people who have already found it. And I challenge you that it is possible to find it. If we have time at the end, I can talk to you about my purpose, Mike. I'll get to your question, and we'll talk about purpose uh, in a sec. No, when I finish some of the stuff, because I want to get through it. I noticed that I'm lagging behind a bit. Operation Brewery is in here because it's a podcast by Dan Norris and two of his buddies, and it sucks that no one remembers the other two guys' names, but um, Dan Norris is the creator of WP Curve. A good friend of mine lives at the coast and has created Black Hops Brewery, and he has also created a podcast called Operation Brewery. For anyone that wants to start a brewery in the future, he's documenting the whole process from funding to the barrels and how they mix stuff together, and he's putting that all together so that whenever someone wants to create one in the future, there is already documented stuff, which is fantastic. And there's never been that kind of stuff done before, to the extent that he has actually partnered with the Black Ops game. I don't know what the game is called. I can't remember, but it's big. What Black Ops game? So Black Ops Brewery has partnered with the Black Ops Xbox and Xbox game, and they've done a massive partnership. Again, somehow he's living on purpose.